Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, let's go. Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast. My name is Scott McKenzie. So glad that you are here, you industrial juggernaut. You have joined the number one industrial podcast in the universe. I'm pretty confident about that as I look at the guest here. So, anyway, yeah, thank you very much. We're going to have another wonderful conversation with a gentleman by the name of Kevin Price. He is with Infor, and we're going to talk. We're going to talk about the future. We're going to talk about the past. We're going to talk about the solutions that Infor can provide and why he is such a spectacular resource. So hang on. It's going to be a great conversation. All right, Kevin. It's all about you right now.
Thanks.
100%. And now you're going to have to make me work for this because this is the mic and you're about 5 feet away from it.
I'm trying to get closer.
No, I've got to work with professionals, Kevin, and we're going to have to work with that.
I get
it. So, Kevin, now how long you been with Infor? And tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, and why you're such an incredible professional.
Absolutely. So I started in the enterprise asset management space in 1997, so 22 years.
Geez, that's... it wasn't a pretty system back then.
No, of course not. It was challenges, to say it at best.
Yeah.
When I came into the market, we were still actually working with DOS systems. And there was a system out there that we had called Maintenance Pack running on DOS. And it was with DataStream at the time. And we started working with some Microsoft development funds. And they said, man, it would be great if you took the application and put it into this thing that we have called Windows 95 and 98. And It would be wonderful for us to do that. So we did. We upgraded it from what we had in DOS. We put it into Windows environment. And we were going to call it Maintenance Professional again, but we already did that. We needed a 2 something, so we shortened it down to MP2 and launched that out a long time ago. And then more money came from Microsoft. We did some things on the active server pages that were popular at the time, and did everything on mobile, and it just kept moving on and on and on.
And then you brought it here.
Pretty much. 2006, we were acquired by Infor. So it was an interesting day. It was interesting from the standpoint of back then, we were in the process of doing things on the web because in 2001, we took our applications, we modernized them, and then we made them available on the web. So we were one of the first people to offer a multi-tenant SaaS product at the time.
No kidding.
And absolutely. It was wonderful because we were thinking this is going to be the wave of the future. This is an opportunity for us to be able to take an application, make it available in a subscription way so that we could take the onus off of somebody installing it locally. So we did that for a while. We kept developing out, and it was because of the architecture that really got us there. We decided to make a database do what a database does and store information. We decided to take the presentation, do what presentation does, and just make it look good, and integration built out in a big way. And lucky for us, it really worked out. The architecture proved positive.
Well, I'm telling you, you were ahead of your time, because now that's what everybody talks about today, in a sense.
You bet.
That SaaS, that solution, that cloud, all of the stuff's associated with that. You guys were ahead of it.
You bet, but it was a bit of a gamble because at the time, a lot of people were tying their horse to different types of structures, different types of architecture. They were going against the Oracle model, or they were going against the Microsoft DNA model and all these other types of things. We just wanted a way that would make it available for many different platforms, meaning browsers, whether it's going to be Chrome or Internet Explorer or Safari or what have you. We didn't want to be tied to the front end and the back end. We wanted to scale in a big way. We wanted to be our own. We wanted to. The important fact is we wanted it to be a product. We didn't want it to turn into a bunch of platform development pieces. So to do that, we had to modernize it in a big way.
Just a cohesive product. Just like, here it is. Not
Exactly. We didn't want to be somewhere that was a project. We always call it our product versus project because we don't want you to have to be in a situation where we give you a code set and now you got to develop it on site. And then you got to have certain types of resources available. We want it to be a cohesive set of product
And
functions.
you know, that mindset, that what you just described, is why people have a sour taste in their mouth.
You bet.
When you go to a potential client, a prospect, and say, hey, we've got a great solution for you. What is it? Oh, it's this. Oh, no, thank you. We went down that road a couple of times, and I'm bald because of it, so I blame you. I'm ugly because of you, and it has nothing to do with you. It's just that's the experience that people have had.
You bet. In the competitive space, it also meant that they would focus on certain areas of the product, but not others. As an example, you'll find mobility was an external add-on. It was an external thing.
Yes.
For us, man, mobile is who we are. When you go out in the field, you're doing work. You need something with you. If I can get that technician to actually record as they work instead of workforce and then record, I immediately save them between 45 and 50 minutes a day.
It makes complete sense. There's no argument to say, no, I'd like it the old or other way. Because the technology, the ability, the hardware, is there, ready to go. And if I'm at the asset or whatever that thing is, and I start done, real time visibility into whatever you're looking at.
Absolutely. You can be able to do a lot of things. I mean, just because it's a digital component, now you have drop-down selection, you have radio button selection, you have complete audit trail support for it. Now, in the past, it used to be really seen as a big brother type of thing. We were doing an implementation long ago when we did mobility. We did it on old Windows format, and we would document where that technician was, because we would say, okay, it was done at this particular location. That means it was done here. Well, over time, what we started noticing is that a lot of technicians were doing work at the same location every Thursday. And we're like, oh my God, why is that? Why are they doing it every Thursday? The reason why is because the guy that was there, he also had a kitchen. He had really good chili. So we had a bunch of technicians that were pushing their time at that particular location. And then all of a sudden we found that out, we reported it in, we let them know it was Big Brother. And now, they're not going to touch this piece of equipment. They're not going to touch this mobile device anymore. So in the past, it used to be seen as a game, as a tool, or a big brother aspect to their lives. And now it's expected, especially as you get people out of college and they're used to using mobile solutions already.
Yeah, and that ability to adopt quickly.
You bet.
I mean, let's say a few years ago, let's say 5, 10, whatever years ago, it's that adoption. Maybe the technology was pretty superior at the time. It's still, I don't want to go down that road. I don't want to do that.
It's tough to find trades that are coming out of school right now. It really is. It's a lot of industries, but the ones that are coming out, they're coming out with the expectation that I can do this in mobile already, that I can do this in a tablet already, that I don't need to have to go back to another. The last thing you want to find out is coming out of school, you have all these advanced techniques, and you come and a guy goes, I realize you've been doing things on mobile, but we got this green screen that I want you to be able to type everything in. It's just not going to happen.
It isn't, and it shouldn't, because I don't think that, I mean, come on. If you have a green screen, I think there's other problems that you got to sort of address, because it's
gone. It's a thing of the past.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing, too, that's a focus on the past that we really didn't focus on, but we do now, is usability. The idea of usability. To give you an idea, just on the mobile concept and usability, back in 2012, we were rolling out our first iPad application. Now, we've done other ones before. We've done Windows environments. We've done the big bricks that used to be, we should call them, a long time ago.
Was a Panasonic
Toughbook.
Toughbook, there it is.
Man.
Giddy up.
Oh yeah, those things were amazing at the time.
I wanted
right?
one.
Those things were military grade too, brother.
They were.
But so what happened is we were going through it, we're like, we're going to make this. We're going to relaunch it. We're going to do a new code set. We're going to make it highly usable. I want to get it to the point where it's just like an ATM. I can be able to put my card in. I didn't have to be taught that. I can just pick it up. I want to do that with a work management application. So we rolled it out. You log in. It's the same login that you have when you log into the browser. You download your work for the day. You can update your activity, book your materials, do different things. This is going to be great. It's easy. So I was thinking, my daughter right now is 8 years old. I'm going to take it to her. If she can use it, if she can pick it up and use it and understand what I'm talking about, then I've won. Right? So I walked in. So I had to translate a little bit for the 8-year-old. I had to say, okay, let's just imagine that mama's car breaks down. I have to go out and fix it. So I walked her through it. I said, I'm going to open up the work order. I went to the piece of equipment. I said, I'm going to get a new tire. I'm going to put it in. And then when I got to the comments, I'm going to write notes. I'm going to tell her what happened so that she can come back and see it. And then the first thing, I started pulling up the keyboard and started typing it in. The first thing she said was, Daddy, why I got to type in your iPad? I don't have to type in my iPad. And I thought for a second, you're absolutely right. You shouldn't have to type it. You should speak to it, and it should hear you, and it should write down the words that you're saying. And at the time, This was a thing that was just expected because she could do it in her application. And this is a thing at the time, though, it was a Siri control, and you had to put it in the development framework, and you had to roll it in.
Right.
Now, these types of things are commonplace. You're right. I should be able to open up now. I can open up my phone. I can go to my work order. I can go to my comments. I can tell you what's wrong with it, and it just automatically types it
Done.
in. It records it. So a lot of these feature or functions that are just nuances that you're not expecting are demanded. They should be there. They should be already there. You don't think about a lot of those things. When I log into the application, I should use my face. I should have Face ID. I should be able to eventually get to the point where I can pull my watch out, my Apple Watch, and look at the piece of equipment, tell it what's wrong, and it respond back to let me know what it does. We're getting there. That's the future. That's where we're trying to get to. Back to documenting it on paper, putting it into a mobile device, making it to where it can transcribe to ultimately, in the future, these types of mobile solutions will be capturing the condition of the data, but also prescribing to me what I should do, telling me what actions I should take in detail.
See, because today, tomorrow we'll be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no question.
Absolutely.
You're not sitting there like in the past where change just sort of lumbered forward.
You're right.
Today, speed is just everything. Time.
You're right.
Time to get it to market in a jet second, and you know that that's going to happen.
It's going to come. So what we have to do now in the present is we have to modify the application to get prepared for that.
Yep.
So to do that, we have to look at the asset registry in a different way. We have to look at condition monitoring in a different way, condition assessments in a different way, because we have to get all those materials and those components in so that the processing of that data from a machine learning perspective can spit me back actions that I want to do that make sense.
Because in the sense, when we start talking about machine learning, AI, whatever you want, it's just a defined parameter.
It is.
And to get to that defined parameters, you have to do the upfront,
You do.
Herculean lifting.
You do.
But once that's done,
Yep.
that's when it becomes
And
really
these Herculean efforts are doing failure code analysis
Yep.
that have always been the principles of RCM, that have always been the principles of asset performance, but now are put in a scenario where they can be automated. So in time, I should be able to subscribe to a preventive maintenance measure that I inherit to the system, and then over time gather the data so it can prescribe me what I should do. It should tell me how to do it. Just the same thing that happens with your printer at home. It gets a paper jam. It tells you which drawer to pull down. It tells you where to go. It tells you to pull it out.
It's still very hard, Kevin. I mean, you're making it sound like it's whoop-a-doop-a-doop, but it's like I'll start to break out in a sweat. No matter how big that number is, go there first.
I know. You'll start beating on the machine. This
is.
happens to that same child that thought I should speak into it. Now she's excited that she can change it. It doesn't work. She gets pissed off and calls me. But I ended up fixing it. But these will still happen because you need us gray hairs to help you out every now and again.
That's right. You're listening to it on the podcast. Don't ever forget about us.
That's exactly
We're pretty
right.
wise.
But then at the same time, that's another problem too. The grain workforce that's out there, we got a lot of knowledge in the noggin. Now, how do you take that out? And how do you put it into
that's
this
a tough one.
framework?
Yeah.
Well, it's not as tough as you think. It's Herculean effort, albeit. But the ideas behind it is those condition monitoring. The gray hair is going to tell you when it looks like this, it feels like this, and it measures like this. This is what you do. Those
Right.
are parameters. Those are things that I can pay attention to.
But you got to start doing that now.
Oh, yeah.
Because what happens, and I've been on a number of projects where, hey, Scott, we got this big old tsunami of individuals that are getting ready to retire. What do you think we need to do? And it's like, you know this is going to happen, but you're not there yet.
No, and you needed a system to be able to support that. So
Yeah.
what we've done a lot is we've expanded in this asset performance management evolution that we're doing. We're expanding the condition assessment collection process. So we have more checklists. We have more derivatives that come from checklists. We have a lot more failure detail that go through it. All those types of data that are in people's head, we want to be able to put it as much as we can to institutionalize in the system so that they can then pass that on to a more automated way. Now, what I've always viewed up, and I'll ask you this question because I'm curious to what you think, is when we
Okay.
start doing that, do we actually dumb down the future mechanics?
Okay, so here's my big beef. First off, you're trying to create a situation where in essence, the organization is boring. And the reason you see that, because it's your system, your technology will always tell you, it's getting ready to sort of have a problem. Go on out there. Nothing fails. The world today, just FYI, people make a lot of money on catastrophic failures.
Absolutely.
And I want to come in, and I'm riding my white horse, and I'm going to be the hero of the day, man. That's got to change. And even though you think you're dumbing down, you're changing the focus. Today,
It's a transfer of knowledge.
it's all it is.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, It has to happen. You're not dumbing it down because you still have to have that innate ability to be able to understand what's going on.
You still need to turn a wrench. You
do.
still need to do some of the basic
You
functions.
do.
And they're still going to be out there. I think I've told you the joke before, but the joke goes along where there was an actual guy that had a ship that was on a dock and nobody would fix it. He tried forever today. He tried to get all these people to come look at it. No one would come fix it. Finally, he just, listen, I got a friend that knows how to do this. I know a guy. He's going to come out and fix it. Well, what's his name? His name's Jim. Jim comes out, and he's old, back's all bent over. He has a small tool bag. He lays it down. And he reaches into his bag. He looks. He decides not to bring anything. He goes into the boat. He goes to the engine room. Spends just about an hour looking around, trying to inspect it. Comes back out to the dock, opens up the bag, grabs a hammer, goes inside, takes a good look, and smacks it on the side, and then tells the guy to start it back up, and to start it up. And he said, I can't believe you just did that. He said, we've had like 10 people come look at this boat. Nobody can get that done. He said, I'll send you a bill. Don't worry about it. You go on your trip. You come back. He said, okay. The guy came back. He saw a bill. It had 2 lines on it. It was $10,000. And he was looking at the lines, and it had one line in there that was $50. And that $50 was for the hammer. The rest was $9,950 for the knowledge of knowing where to hit it.
Yeah.
So being able to transfer that knowledge that guy had is the most important thing. Now, how do you capture that and how do you bring it in? Just like you're saying, it can be a Herculean effort to do some of these things. But if you don't do that and prepare for the future, the technology won't come. You
got it. That sounds like an LSU type of guy. It wasn't a Clemson guy, was it?
Oh, that's funny.
Oh.
That's funny. My buddy is the voice of LSU, so we need to talk about that a little later. I grew up with. His name is Christopher Blair. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. I like him already.
He's a wonderful guy. It's a great organization. He came from Georgia Southern, went over there, so they received him really well.
Good deal, my kid. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit, and we've talked a little bit about the past, present, and where we're going in the future, and how your organization is trying to recognize what the future is, and then be able to build that into your system.
Slowly.
Slowly. I understand. You got to do it in a very methodical way. You can't just sort of, pencil whip it and get it on out there. So what are your challenges? What are your, things that are just like, okay, if we could deal with this, man.
Oh, man. So one of the difficulties we have, because we decided to be a product versus a project solution, is making a one-size-fits-all work. Mm-hmm. So if I were to go into the food and beverage industry and understand what those problems are and develop it just for that industry, I would succeed really quickly. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. But we have the application in 16 languages, single and double byte. We have it around the world. It's hosted. It's locally installed. It's under different verticals. We have people that are using it for the Large Hadron Accelerator in Geneva. We have some people that are doing it for automotive. Very cool stuff.
Very cool.
We have people that are using it to sweep the floors. We have it in other. So we have to develop these as objects that work under any circumstance. So when you're doing the idea, well, we want to gather data to be able to understand it. How do we do that? Well, condition assessments and checklists and these types of tools that we have help build that as a data source that then can be pushed forward. Now, that'll work in Duke University. That'll work in CERN. It's a challenge. It's a really difficult thing.
So if I were to draw a picture, just because I'm a visual guy, you've got this sort of, and we talked about this sort of generic backbone functionality. It is just, it's there. And I can move it around to different companies, but then I have these specific objects.
Right.
That object is focused in on that industry.
Yep.
That's rich, industrial, whatever that industry capability, and then it just clicks to a certain extent, that generic framework.
It does. I mean, you can't expect a linear asset needs that happen in a transit organization to be the same linear asset needs in a utility.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. So, but you can be able to set a structure that can handle linear asset management that then goes into the properties and the principles of transit, and then apply those. But the difficulty comes into play where what are those uniqueness? How much are they unique? Do I need to put them as a part of my object model? Do I need to put it in an extensible framework? And what partners do I need to look to? One of the godsends that we have in our organization is we have tremendous partners. These partners are able to take our application and scale it in a huge way. One of our partners out there is Stratum Consulting.
Yep.
And they even took the application to be able to create a craft brew configuration.
Right.
So it's amazing. They can be able to take the application, configure it ahead of time to be able to do craft brewing, to be able to do processes for around craft brewing. And you would think that, that could be applied elsewhere, but it's really unique to their organization that brings it out. But it uses our application, all the objects underneath it to get there.
But see, what I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the big things that used to bother me is just time.
Yep.
And there's time and complexity. What you're telling me is that you sort of removed to a certain extent complexity because you're married, you're diligent about that structure, and then of course time. If I have an object that is dedicated, in the case of Stratum Consulting, then my implementation time is reduced dramatically because I have this already. I plug it in here, click, 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 go.
And we call those implementation accelerators as a general rule.
I like
That's
it.
exactly what it is. So you take the application as its general sense. It's called the Cloud Suite EAM Enterprise Edition. And it's basic, raw, vanilla. But when you bring somebody in that has that best practice expertise, they apply a configuration on top of that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's customized. It doesn't mean it won't be patched. It won't be upgraded. It won't be moved forward. But it means that all the nuances that they have experienced in their best practices is applied on top of that. And they can bring out their principles. They can bring even prepackaged computer-based training ideas to be able to help you move quick. It can have prepackaged preventive schedules that you may not already know. It can have a lot of different types of details on the steps to be able to go through a preventive maintenance package. There's a lot of things that it can bring.
I'll tell you one thing. When I would implement these systems, right, I would, it would be a minimum of 18 months. For whatever reason, everybody talked about 18 months. But it would always go a little bit beyond that.
Always.
Click, 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 dollars, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. In that mindset, in that reality, what are we talking about now?
Well, it's interesting because in the conversation we just had with them before with Stratum, they said their average is 9 months, not 18.
So,
Come on. It's amazing. It can be a lot
It
faster,
is.
too, depending on the industry of what you're trying to do, because Infor has taken even a step further in saying that we have cloud suites for different industries that are already built. So Cloud Suite Facilities Management, we already built it out to be able to do a lot of the facilities functions, to be able to do space movement, work movement, to be able to do allocations, to see graphical imagery, to be able to do mobility. We do a lot of that already for some of those, too, and then they take it even further.
See, this is interesting. You listeners out there in Industrial Talk, what we're talking about is you've got this generic backbone, this framework, and then if I have I don't care what it might be, I might be manufacturing widgets. Infor might have an object that is specific to best practice and correct me if I'm wrong, manufacturing of widgets. We can pull it off the shelf and then stick it and collect it and then make some minor modifications. That's because we're unique, maybe. But it's not. You're not sitting there trying to recreate the wheel.
You bet.
And it just keeps.
It keeps growing. It keeps growing and adding because it allows me to do it. This configuration sits on top of the application.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit within it or entwine to it and restricting it. So it allows me to be able to apply patches, about to upgrade, and then everything moves forward. And that's why I mentioned the architecture. We spent an inordinate amount of time on the architecture in the beginning when we did all this work because we wanted a database to do what a database does, a presentation to do what a presentation does, reporting and so on, so that I can scale.
See, that's just It's brilliant in its simplicity.
We think.
Well, being from the other side when I've done this stuff,
you bet.
I see the brilliance of it. I really do. So you are a rock star, man. And we can. I mean, we're just constantly. We can talk forever, but we don't have time.
We really could. Well, we're not going to talk about LSU and Clemson, though. We do have different opinions on that.
And from the crowd, we get a very heavy, heavy sigh from the crowd. Yeah, they're a good team.
They're all right.
Yeah. You guys are the national champions, right? You beat Alabama.
Three times.
Well, at least, what's that?
3 times.
Well, yeah, but we have to play Alabama every year.
We only play them when it matters, though.
That's it. Well, every time we play them, it matters, and we fail miserably. Tiger, come on.
That's exactly right.
So, and we're Tigers. We're both Tigers.
Yeah, but it's a different kind. You know, it's a better color.
Oh man, that's called podcast trash talk. Podcast. And now I'm uncomfortable, and I'm feeling that uncomfort. Well, Hey, Kevin, thank you very much. That is an incredible conversation. I love it. We're going to have to do a lot more. We're going to have to start talking about other things because you guys are doing a lot out there.
My pleasure. It's been
excellent job. And you, Industrial Talk podcast listeners, you stay tuned. We're going to wrap it up on the other side. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you for being here, Kevin.
Absolutely.
And you guys, I'll talk to you in a minute. As an industrial professional myself, I was always passionate about sales, marketing, branding, expanding the marketplace for my company. That's what the Industrial Talk platform is all about. It's about you, the industrial company, the industrial professional, and your legacy. Increasing sales, gaining greater exposure on what you do and how you and your company changes the world. Go out to industrialtalk.com. That's industrialtalk.com. Contact me. Let's have a conversation to see how we can work with you on improving your bottom line and that you can be a part of an ever-growing network of industrial companies focused on expanding and growing and leaving a legacy. I hope to hear from you soon, and be safe out there. All right, Infor Nation, thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. So glad that you are here. I am honored. And I'm also honored to have that Kevin Price guy on the podcast. Passionate about what he provides. I'm telling you, I've reached out to him on LinkedIn. That's the best way right now. I'm just telling you right now. Reach out to him. Find him. Kevin Price. Slap in that Infor. You'll find him with no problem. Type a little message. He's going to get back to you. And he never stops thinking. He never just stops creating new ideas. Every time I have a conversation with him, blows my mind. My ears start to bleed. But anyway, that's Kevin Price, baby. And thank you again for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. We're just dedicated to you, the industrial professional, providing the solutions that you need to be a success in this world. So be safe. Thank you. And we will talk again because we've got some more great interviews coming up.